I never believed in haunted places, not really, at least not in the kind of way people tell stories about on the internet or on late-night radio shows. Old buildings creak, they settle, they echo in weird ways that play tricks on your mind. I always figured it was just that, shadows and sound where you didn't expect them, nothing more. But the night this happened to me, I stopped trying to explain it away. I worked in this office building downtown, nothing fancy, just one of those brick and stone relics from the early 1900s that somehow survived the city, tearing itself down and rebuilding 100 times. It had one of those lobbies with faded marble tiles and a brass mail chute that hadn't worked since the 70s, and an elevator that always groaned when you got in, like it resented carrying people anymore. The kind of building that smelled like dust and stale paper, no matter how much they cleaned it. I'd been staying late that week, trying to finish up a project before the end of the quarter. Most nights I was the only one still there after 9. Everyone else cleared out at 5 or 6, but me, I was a creature of bad habits. Coffee, headphones, and empty silence kept me going when I should have been home asleep. That night was no different. Around 11:30, I finally decided to call it quits. My brain was fried, my eyes hurt, and the office was so quiet I could hear the old pipes clanking behind the walls. I packed up my laptop, shut everything down, and headed for the elevator. I hated taking the stairs. 10 flights down always felt like an eternity when you were exhausted, so I pressed the call button, heard the cables groan somewhere above me, and waited. When the doors opened, I stepped inside, hit the button for the lobby, and leaned against the wall, rubbing my eyes. The elevator rattled as it started down. That wasn't unusual. What was unusual was that it stopped almost immediately. I frowned, thinking maybe someone else had called it from another floor. But when the door slid open, what I saw made me freeze. It wasn't any floor I recognized. The walls outside were covered in old, peeling wallpaper, the kind you'd see in a house that hadn't been lived in for decades, yellowed and curling at the edges. The lights overhead flickered dimly, buzzing like they were about to burn out, and the hallway stretched in both directions longer than it should have, way longer than the building was even wide. And the worst part, none of the floor numbers matched. The little display above the elevator doors, the one that always told you where you were, was blank. Just dark. No number at all. I remember my first thought was that I must have hit the wrong button. Maybe ended up on one of those maintenance floors or something. But there was no M button, no service floor, nothing like that in this building. Just lobby, 1 through 10. That was it. I knew it as well as I knew the back of my hand, and yet here I was, staring into a hallway that shouldn't exist. I should have just hit close doors and gone home. I should have ignored it. But my curiosity got the better of me. I stepped out. The carpet under my feet was threadbare and smelled faintly of mildew, like it had been damp for a long time. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting the doors to shut on me, but they stayed open, waiting. I took a few steps down the hall. There were doors on both sides, spaced evenly, every single one of them identical. Dark wood, tarnished brass handles, numbers that were worn almost completely away. I leaned closer to it, squinting, and thought I saw a 3 carved into the metal, but it was scratched so badly it could have been anything. I don't know why I reached out and tried the handle. Some stupid, reckless instinct, I guess. It didn't turn, none of them did. I tried 3 in a row, each locked tight, each colder to the touch than the last, like the metal had been left outside in winter. I was about to turn back when I heard it. Faint, but clear enough to stop me dead in my tracks. Footsteps, coming from down the hallway, slow, deliberate, echoing against the wallpapered walls. I froze, listening. At first I thought maybe it was security, though I'd never seen them on this floor before, never even heard of them patrolling up here. But the longer I listened, the more wrong it felt. Whoever it was, they weren't walking toward me in a straight line. The sound shifted, like they were weaving back and forth, dragging one foot slightly, like something was off about their gait. And then, without warning, every light in that hallway flickered once, twice, and went out. For a few seconds, I was standing in pitch black, heart pounding, breath loud in my ears. The footsteps stopped. Silence pressed in, heavy and suffocating. Then, with a faint hum, the lights buzzed back to life. The hallway was empty. No one there, no shadows, no movement, nothing. Just the same peeling wallpaper, the same endless row of locked doors. My stomach turned, and I finally got smart enough to back up toward the elevator. Only when I glanced over my shoulder, the open doors I'd left behind me were gone. The elevator wasn't there anymore. I was staring at another stretch of hallway, just as long and just as wrong as the first. I don't think I've ever known fear like the kind that slammed into me when I turned and realized the elevator was gone. Just gone. 1 second it had been right there behind me, its brass doors yawning open like a lifeline back to normalcy, and the next it had vanished, replaced by more of that impossible hallway. I stood there frozen, my brain trying to stitch together some kind of explanation. Hallways don't just replace elevators. Space doesn't just rearrange itself. But no matter how long I stared, that elevator wasn't coming back. My heart hammered so hard in my chest, I thought I was going to pass out. I remember whispering to myself, "This isn't real. It's just a dream. You're exhausted. You fell asleep at your desk. That's all it is." I even pinched my arm, hard enough to make myself yelp. The pain was sharp and very, very real. And when I looked down the hallway again, it was still there, stretching endlessly in both directions. The air felt heavier now, like it was pressing against my skin, damp and close, making it harder to breathe. I turned left first, picking a direction at random, walking fast but trying not to outright sprint, because some part of me knew running would make it worse. Every door I passed was the same. Dark wood, brass handle, almost no number left to read. I tried a few again, jiggling the handles, pulling hard, even kicking one. But none of them gave. Locked tight. It didn't make sense. What was the point of all these doors if none of them opened? And then I heard it again. That dragging step. Slow. Closer this time. My stomach dropped. I spun around, looking down the hall I'd just walked, but it was empty. I couldn't see anyone, but the sound kept coming, echoing faintly, growing clearer, like it was following just a little ways behind me, but never close enough to see. I kept moving faster now, trying door after door, whispering under my breath like an idiot. Come on, just open. Please open." And finally, one did. The handle turned suddenly in my hand. The door creaked inward on stiff hinges, and I stumbled inside without even looking first. I slammed it shut behind me and pressed my back against it, gasping. The room I found myself in was wrong. Like everything else on that floor, it didn't belong. It looked like a hotel room, but not one anyone would actually stay in. The wallpaper was the same faded, peeling mess, the carpet a threadbare brown, and the bed in the center sagged in the middle like something heavy had been lying there for decades. There was a dresser against the far wall, with a cracked mirror above it, and when I glanced at it, I froze. My reflection was staring back at me, but not in sync. When I lifted my hand, it didn't. When I tilted my head, it stayed still, its face blank, its eyes glassy. It just stood there, staring at me until, after a long moment, it slowly smiled. My knees almost gave out. I backed away from the dresser, not daring to take my eyes off the mirror, muttering, "No, no, no, no." The smile widened, impossibly wide, stretching in a way no human face should. And then, just like that, the glass cracked straight down the middle with a sharp, splintering sound. I flinched, covering my face, but the mirror didn't shatter further. It just sat there, split down the center, my reflection still smiling on one side, the other warped and fractured. I wanted to get out. I needed to. But when I turned back to the door I'd come through, it wasn't there anymore. The wall was solid. No handle, no hinges, nothing. Just more peeling wallpaper. I staggered forward, running my hands over the wall, slamming my fist against it. But it was seamless. The door had vanished. Trapped. My breath came in short, panicked bursts. I spun back toward the room, half expecting the reflection to have climbed out of the mirror, but the dresser was gone too. In its place was another door, not the same one I'd come through. This one was taller, thinner, painted an ugly shade of green, and I swear I could hear something breathing on the other side. I don't know how long I stood there staring at it, waiting for it to open, my body frozen between running and collapsing. But it never opened, not on its own. And as much as every part of me screamed not to touch it, I knew it was my only chance, my only way forward, my only way out. So I reached out, my hand trembling so badly I could barely get my fingers around the knob, and I turned it. The hinges shrieked as the door swung inward, and a rush of cold air blasted over me. Beyond it was another hallway, darker than the last, narrower, with the walls pressed closer together like it was forcing me down a throat. I took one step in, and that's when I heard it again. Those footsteps. Not behind me this time, ahead, waiting. The second I stepped into that narrow hallway, I regretted it. It felt like the walls themselves were closing in on me, as if the building wanted to swallow me whole. The air was colder here, biting at my skin, and with every breath I exhaled, I saw faint white mist. That made no sense. This was supposed to be indoors, but it was as if I had stepped into some other place entirely. My shoes scraped against the floor, each sound bouncing back and forth between the walls, until it felt like I was walking inside the body of some great beast, the sound of my movement echoing in its ribs. And then came the footsteps again. Slow, dragging, measured. I froze mid-step, the hairs on my arms standing on end. It wasn't behind me. It was ahead. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the reach of my sight. I remember whispering into the air, not even knowing why I did it. I hear you. My voice came back to me, warped and hollow, as though the hallway had swallowed it and spat out something less human. My instincts told me to turn around, to run, to hammer my fists against the wall where the green door had been. But when I glanced over my shoulder, the door was gone, sealed over by more of that endless wallpaper, like it had never existed. My way out was gone. The only path was forward, toward whatever was waiting in the dark. So I started walking, each step slow, careful, my ears straining against the silence. The footsteps had stopped when I stopped, but as I moved again, so did they, always keeping the same distance ahead, like something was pacing me. I don't know how long I walked. Time seemed to bend and stretch in that place. Minutes, hours, it all blurred. The hallway never ended. The only change was the occasional door, just like the ones I'd seen before. Heavy wood, brass handle, no readable number. And just like before, everyone I tried was locked. My panic grew with every handle that refused to turn. It was like the place was mocking me. At one point, after trying a door and failing, I pressed my forehead against it, whispering, "Please, please just open." And I swear to God, I felt something on the other side press back. A cold spot against the wood, shaped like a hand. My knees buckled, and I pushed away from the door so hard I nearly fell over. That's when I saw it for the first time. Not clearly, not in any way that made sense, but I saw movement in the darkness ahead. A shadow against shadows, long and twisted, stretched wrong, like a figure walking on joints that weren't meant to bend that way. It didn't move smoothly. It jerked, paused, then dragged itself forward again, one leg scraping against the floor. My stomach dropped, and every instinct screamed at me to run, but the hallway gave me no choice. Forward or nothing. So I moved, trying to keep as quiet as I could, though the floor creaked under my weight. The figure never sped up, never slowed down, always just ahead, never letting me catch it, never letting me fall behind. I realized after a while that it wanted me to follow. That thought sat like a stone in my gut. I don't know how long I was stuck in that nightmare march. My legs ached, my throat was dry, my mind buzzing with exhaustion and terror. But eventually, the figure stopped, dead still in the darkness ahead. My heart thudded against my ribs as I crept closer, every step a battle between my fear and the dread of what would happen if I didn't move at all. And then, without warning, the lights in the hallway flickered. For the first time since I'd entered, The darkness peeled back, just for an instant, and I saw it. I don't even know how to describe what I saw without feeling sick. It was tall, impossibly tall, its head brushing the ceiling, its limbs long and thin like scaffolding poles, covered in skin too loose for the bones beneath. Its face, or what passed for a face, was a pale oval, featureless except for a mouth that stretched all the way across, lips cracked and dry, grinning wide enough to split its head in two. When the light flickered back out, I was left in the dark again. But that image burned itself into my mind so completely, I can still see it when I close my eyes. I stood frozen, shaking, praying it hadn't seen me, praying it was just some hallucination from lack of sleep or hunger or whatever the hell was happening to me. But then it spoke. Its voice wasn't a voice. It was the sound of doors opening and closing, of hinges groaning, of wood splintering. It whispered a single word: forward. My legs moved before my brain could stop them. I was walking again, almost running, driven by some compulsion I couldn't fight. Every door I passed seemed to rattle in its frame as I went by, like something inside wanted to get out. The sound grew louder, a chorus of shaking handles, thudding, fists cracking wood, until the hallway was filled with the noise of all those unseen things trying to claw their way through. I screamed, covering my ears, but it didn't help. The sound was inside my head as much as outside. And then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. Silence. Crushing, absolute silence. I was standing in front of a single door, different from the rest. This one was white, pristine, clean, like it didn't belong in this decaying place. My hand shook as I reached for the knob. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to know what was on the other side. But behind me in the dark, I could hear it. Breathing. Close. Waiting. I had no choice. I turned the knob, pushed the door open, and stepped inside. And what I found there made me wish I'd stayed in the hallway with that thing. The door shut behind me with a soft click, like a coffin lid closing. I didn't even touch it. Something unseen sealed me in. The silence that followed was suffocating. At first I thought I was standing in just another empty room, but then my eyes adjusted and I realized where I was. It looked exactly like my old bedroom. Not the one I live in now, but the one from when I was a kid. Same peeling wallpaper, same twin bed shoved against the corner, the same dresser with one missing handle. I felt dizzy staring at it, like the room itself had been pulled straight from my memories. But then I saw the difference. On the dresser, where I remembered keeping my baseball cards and action figures, there were photographs, dozens of them, arranged neatly in frames, each one facing outward. I crept closer, my gut twisting tighter with every step, because I already knew what I was going to see. They were all of me. Not family portraits, not casual snapshots, just me, standing alone in random places. Some of them were from when I was younger, photos I recognized. But most of them weren't. Most of them showed me in places I had never been. Walking down a street at night, sitting in a diner booth, standing on a bus I'd never taken. Even one of me asleep, mouth slightly open, head turned on a pillow that wasn't mine. And each photo had one thing in common: a shadow. Always in the background, always blurred, but unmistakable. Tall, thin, watching. I staggered back from the dresser, bile rising in my throat. My voice shook as I whispered, "What the hell is this?" That's when the lights in the room dimmed, just slightly. Like the air itself grew heavier. The photos rattled in their frames. And then I heard it again. The voice that wasn't a voice. The sound of doors opening, closing, splintering. But this time, it wasn't just one word. It said, "You belong here." I stumbled back toward the door I'd come through, fumbling at the knob, but it wouldn't turn. No matter how hard I pulled, it was sealed shut. Behind me, the bed creaked, the sound of weight pressing down on it. I didn't want to look. Every instinct screamed not to look, but I did. And I saw myself. I swear to you, sitting on the bed, staring at me with dead, empty eyes. It was me. Same face, same body, same clothes I was wearing that very moment, but its skin was pale, stretched thin, its smile too wide, too knowing. It raised a hand, and when it moved, I felt my own arm twitch. Like my body wanted to obey. I whispered, "No, no, that's not me. That's not me." The thing on the bed tilted its head the way a curious animal might. Then it spoke, in my voice. Perfectly. "I've been waiting." I froze, my own voice coming out of something that wasn't me, hearing it echo off the walls. It broke something in me. My mind screamed to deny it, but my body wouldn't move. It stood up slowly, fluidly, like its joints worked better than mine. And with every step it took toward me, I felt weaker, like my strength was draining into the floor. My legs buckled and I dropped to my knees, gasping, unable to fight. It crouched down in front of me, our faces inches apart. Up close, I could see the cracks in its skin, like porcelain stretched too thin. Its grin split wider until the corners of its mouth tore. Bloodless, silent tears in its face. And then it whispered something only I could hear. Something so quiet, so intimate, I felt it burn into my skull. "You'll forget who you were, but we won't forget you." The lights went out. For a long time, there was nothing but blackness and that suffocating weight pressing down on me. When I came to, I was lying on the floor of the hotel lobby. The clerk was gone. The place was silent. The front doors wide open. I ran out without looking back, straight into the street, choking on sobs. I don't know how I made it home. I don't remember driving. All I remember is stumbling into my apartment, locking the door, curling into a ball, and shaking until morning. That should have been the end of it. I should have been free once I got away. But I wasn't. Because even now, weeks later, things aren't right. I keep finding photos, not in frames, not on dressers, just tucked into strange places. My fridge, my desk, even once under my pillow. And in every single one of them, I look just a little bit different. The smile is a little wider, the eyes are a little emptier. And last night, I woke up to the sound of my own voice whispering from the corner of the room. It said, "You belong here." And when I turned on the light, I swear I saw myself standing there in the dark, smiling.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more horror tales.